sports fans, and welcome into the Buffie Burson Show. I'm Rusty Brown, joined by head of the Lady Saints, Buffie Burson, and this is the second edition of the Lady Saints Buffie Burson Coaches Show. And Coach, interesting start to the season so far. You get off with an exhibition win against Bryan. That's the last time we led off, and since then, a win against Reinhardt, 71-31. Back-to-back losses in the Chick-fil-A Tip-Off Classic, and then here this weekend, taking down Kentucky Wesleyan and Trevecca Nazarene. Big weekend here this weekend. We're going to take a look at that here later on in the show. But talk to me a little bit about the season so far and the progression of this team, and especially being such a young team, how they progressed so far in the season.
Yeah, well, you know, last weekend was definitely disappointing to lose the two games that we did because no disrespect from either team. We just felt like we should have put more points on the board. We underachieved. We scored in the 50s both games, and that was a goal of ours this past weekend to come up with a lot more points. So that was obviously what we worked on all week long. And progression of the team, you know, just growing up and learning how to protect the ball and get stops at particular times and things like that. And I think, you know, after being down 20 this weekend and coming back, that showed a lot that we have matured in a short amount of time.
On November 16th here at home, the Lady Saints took down Reinhardt, a 71-31 final there, a 40-point win to get the regular season underway. And, Coach, how important was that to get off to that really hot start, get that 40-point win, especially for, like we said, a young team to get out to that big win here in the first game? How big was that to win the first one?
It was big. You know, I mean, you want your, like we talked about in the previous show, you want your first home game to be at home, your first game to be at home, and to win by that point margin and to get to play a lot of players and so forth was really good. You know, and we didn't want it to kind of give us a false, we didn't want it to think that we were that good because we knew we still had a lot of work to do.
Right.
Although it was still good to get a big win with a big point margin.
So big win there against Reinhardt, 71-31 here at home. And then it was the Chick-fil-A Tip-Off Classic last weekend. On November 20th, Newberry comes into town and takes down the Lady Saints 58-50. And then another tough loss to Rollins the next day on Saturday, 64-58, your final there. So, Coach, you all of a sudden, after two quick wins and a 40-point win in your first game, you fall to 1-2. Tough two losses there in the Chick-fil-A Tip-Off Classic. You had a week to prepare for the Chick-fil-A Thanksgiving Classic this past weekend. What did you work on in practice following those two losses?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, you know, the two losses were disappointing last weekend, although they were two really good teams. I mean, Newberry's a powerhouse in the SAC every year, you know, playing in the championship game. Rollins, nationally ranked, you know, all last year, receiving votes this year. So we knew that both of them were going to be really good. However, we didn't really realize that our points were going to be that low. 50 and 58, I think, is what we scored, and we knew that wasn't good enough. So we worked on offense.
Right.
I mean, we worked on our offense, and we worked on put more points on the board, and it worked this weekend.
Some season stats so far, and again here this weekend, had two big wins against Kentucky Wesleyan and Trevecca Nazarene, which we'll break down exclusively here in just a moment. But Lady Saints stats so far this season: Janice Ely averaging 16 points a game, 7 rebounds. Whitney Randolph 11.4, 9.8 rebounds a game, and she has 8 total blocks as well. Meredith Montgomery coming strong off the bench. She's averaging 9.2. Aisha Alexander 8.4, Tiffany Marlowe 6.8, and Sarah Stinson at 6.4 points per game. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to take a look at what happened in Friday night's action against Kentucky Wesleyan in the Chick-fil-A Thanksgiving Classic. Don't go anywhere. It's the Buffie Burson Show right here on SaintSports.com.
And University of Oklahoma coming away with a big win there and shot up here. A couple lobs have gone inside immediately. Ely, turnaround J is good. Boy, what a tough shot by the freshman. North Georgia looking to cut it to 5-4. Inside to Ely, good. 67-62.
Welcome back to the Buffie Burson Show here on SaintSports.com. I'm Rusty Brown, joined by Lady Saints head coach Buffie Burson, and we're talking about what happened this weekend in the Chick-fil-A Thanksgiving Classic. Hopefully everybody had a nice holiday. I know that the Lady Saints most certainly did, and Coach, bouncing back from 2 consecutive losses at home in the Chick-fil-A Tip-Off Classic the weekend before, but here this weekend, Lady Saints getting off to a good start on Friday as they take down the Lady Panthers of Kentucky Wesleyan 75-70. Big win there as you have to come back here in the second half. A really big win here, scoring 75 points. Definitely a big win and a big confidence booster.
Yeah, it was, and we needed that. You know, I told David, our SID, after the game, and so that we really needed it. And so, you know, after that, like we said, we worked on offense so long. And they were such a big team. We felt like that we, you know, had a little bit of quickness on them, and we thought they were a really good team. We have all the respect in the world for them, but we were really trying to get to the free throw line a lot. using our quickness and our versatility with some of our players that are so versatile, and it worked. So.
Early on in the goings here of this game, it was the Lady Panthers getting off to a hot start, but then despite struggling from the field in the first half, Coach, you go into the locker room only trailing by 4. It just seemed like there in the first half the buckets just weren't falling.
Yeah, they weren't. And we've been doing that. You know, we've been missing a lot of chip shots around the basket and missing, putbacks and things like that you just can't do and win. So we've been, really focusing on that, push-ups in practice, whatever it takes, to get them to focus on the finish. But we finally did, and again, like we said, we got to the line, which was huge, and obviously in this ball game, and came up with some other big shots, which we'll probably talk about.
First half stats here for the Lady Saints as they go into the locker room trailing by 4. 9 of 27 from the field, a 33.3% percentage there from behind the arc. 1 of 5 for 20% from the free throw line. 11 of 20, only 55%. And Coach, was that something you worked on and talked with this team at halftime, getting to the line and making those free throws?
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned before, it was just we were so mismatched in size. They're 1 through. The point guard was small, but other than that, their other starting 4 and anybody they brought off the bench was 5'11", 6'1", And so we knew that we were going to have to try to outquick them and try to put it on the floor and try to run in transition and try to get some things out of transition, and it ended up working in our favor.
Coming right out of the locker room, the Lady Saints came roaring out of the locker room to take that 41-40 lead moments into the second half. From there, it was a back-and-forth game of lead changes. How difficult is it as a coach to keep your team, to keep bouncing back from losing momentum? You have a bunch of lead changes here. How difficult is it to keep this team focused to get back in the game?
It was difficult, I'm not going to lie. That whole game was a roller coaster ride, and it was a game of runs, and they went ahead, we went ahead, and so forth. So it was just, again, it's us realizing our potential and really, taking a step forward and, finishing that game off for us was just really big, and it gave us a big confidence booster going into Saturday's game.
On Friday night, Janice Ely hitting 2 clutch three-pointers there down the stretch to regain momentum and take a late lead, which you would hang on to and get the victory. Was Ely's go-ahead three-pointer from the top of the key a design play, or was that something where the shot was just there and she took it?
Well, it is a play that we run. Whether she takes it or not was going to be up to her at that point. She felt confident in it, and the big thing was that she knocked it down, and that's what we tell them. There's shots that are going to come open in the game. If you practice those, if you hit those, if you're confident in those, you need to take them, and she did.
And Meredith Montgomery converted on 4 free throws in the final 25 seconds to secure the 75-70 victory. Final stats from the game on Friday night: 75-70, Lady Saints are victorious over Kentucky Wesleyan. Janice Ely with 19 total points. Meredith Montgomery with 14. Winnie Randolph adds 14 as well, as to go along with her 9 rebounds. Sarah Stinson with 11 total points and 9 boards. And Coach, second half, 83.3% from behind the arc, 5 of 6. Definitely deadly there from downtown. Lady Saints get the win on Friday night, 75-70. We're going to take another short break. When we come back, we're going to be talking about what happened on Saturday and a wild comeback in the second half against Trevecca Nazarene. Don't go anywhere. It's the Buffie Burson Show right here on the Lady Saints home.